Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Sales Live with Jeff Gunsberg and myself. We're looking forward to sitting down and talking with Gary Rosenberg. Gary, welcome. Thank you for taking time to connect with us. You're the Director of Life and Benefits Division at Paragon Underwriters, and today we're talking about insurance, something that everybody needs, but a lot of times something that people don't necessarily want to talk about. And I think that because they don't always want to talk about it, they miss some of the key insurance elements that they need for their life and for their business. And so maybe just to kick off, what are some of the common things that people overlook that they need and simply just don't think about?
Well, they need an advisor that they trust and that they like enough to actually talk to.
Amen to that. Yeah.
You know, if you're always dodging your insurance man, you're not going to learn anything from him, and he's not going to learn anything about you.
Yeah, well said.
What do you, Gary, so you said trust, like in what you do, and I've known you forever. By the way, first off, Happy New Year to both of you.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Oh, yeah, Happy New Year.
2021. Better than 2020, hopefully. So, but you mentioned trust, like as a salesperson, trust is certainly something that's earned, and especially I would assume on the insurance side. What over the years have you found that has helped you to create trust and create great relationships with your clients, so that they continue to come back and continue to use you as that trusted advisor?
Well, I'd say as a younger insurance man, I always wanted to be some vision of what I thought an insurance man should be. Eventually, you have to be yourself because nothing else reads as true and honest.
Sure.
So if you're a little bit of a goofball and like to make a silly joke once in a while, well, I'm not saying that's me, but it might be. But I have to be myself. I was on a meeting once with the great Alan Sussman, a wonderful ad man. And he was so excited. He was jumping up on the tables, almost literally. And I asked him afterward, and he said, well, I've got to be who I am. I've got to use my real voice. And I've never forgotten that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so, I think that takes sometimes people a lifetime to figure out, Gary, because whether they're sometimes in a corporate world where they can't fully use their voice or be themselves, or it takes a lot of work. And so on a sales perspective, how do you how do you put that into your prospecting? How do you put that into your networking? How do you incorporate it? Like, how do you really execute and stay true to that in all of the elements of a sales continuum?
Well, while you're being professional, you have to discover who you are and use that. When I used to make a lot of phone calls based on referrals from LinkedIn, I had certain little jokes that I would use that they were a little silly, but they were funny enough, but it felt natural to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to force it. So being professional meant if you had a line that worked and you could use it again and again, then you use it again and again. I mean, the guitars on the wall are not just there for decorations. I've made a living as an entertainer for almost 10 years. And you have to play the same songs every night. You can't have new material every single night.
Yeah.
And the introductions to the songs, you learn what people find funny and you use it.
Yeah.
And it has to be fresh every night too. So when I'm making phone calls, again, back when I used to make lots of phone calls, I had something that would work, and it would be something simple and stupid, but it felt like me. If I got referred from somebody, I'd say I was referred to you, John, by Jeff Gunsberg, and I do whatever Jeff tells me to do.
Yeah.
It's a nothing little joke, but it's just me being me.
Yeah.
And they laugh and they go, "Oh, be careful,"
I love that. Just what you're saying makes me think about when I started my coaching business about 6 years ago. I felt like I started a business and I could finally just be myself. I didn't have to be in corporate America and be, kind of play the game over here and play the game over here. And so it's in the thread of everything that I do. And so my intent is always so pure because I'm just being myself. And you either attract or detract those the right people or the people that just don't fit with you. So everything you're saying completely resonates with me.
Yeah, for sure. And as a testament to John too, you were coaching when I met you.
Yeah,
10 plus years ago. Even though that wasn't your job, you were doing that anyway. Like the conversations that we have are not so different from the conversations that we had back then,
No,
so
they were not.
That is you, that's who you are. And nobody could ever say, you're not a genuine guy and being yourself. So that's, it's a really important thing that Gary, is talking about too. And that you're bringing up. And it's a super, super important thing. Just kind of shift gears. So Gary, I obviously have worked with you for many years. I've known you maybe almost 20 years, goes back a ways. Tell everybody out there kind of, obviously you sell insurance, but who's, ideal, like, the folks that are out there that they're kind of watching, what are their, who's your sweet spot? Who are people that you really can help and service and add some value to?
Well, I love dealing with independent business people who are starting their own business, people who work by themselves, for themselves. Everybody knows they need life insurance. Everyone knows they need health insurance. But so many haven't even thought about disability insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And unless they have an advisor who understands it, they never talk about it with anybody. So it's an easy conversation to have, and you can see the light bulb going off, and they go, yeah, if I got sick or hurt, I'd be screwed. I'm not going back to living with mom and dad, and nobody's going to give me money if I can't work. What are my options? So then we start discussing disability insurance, and that gets me into a lot of people who have left that big block of their financial plan empty.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. And how do you guide them to actually investing in that? Because I think sometimes people do look at things like disability insurance. It's a little pricier. Some people may look at it as an expense. It's preventative insurance, yet important insurance to have, especially I think COVID reminds us how quickly things can change overnight and how vulnerable many of us can be. And so how do you, from a sales perspective, while you're also being yourself and genuine, like you've talked about, really drive home to them the importance of why they need it now?
Well, I know you're going to hate this as a business coach because sales is supposed to be all about emotion. And that's how people buy. Isn't that what every book tells you? Isn't that what Donald Trump proved, that people do things based on how they feel, not on what they think? But
no comment on that.
I can't help it.
No politics on the show.
No politics.
That's fine. I'm a logical salesman. So when I'm talking to somebody, I have a little diagram that I draw. And the concept is that we don't insure against things because they're likely. We've all had a hole in our sock. Doesn't mean you buy insurance, because you just buy another sock. If, however, you couldn't work because you got sick or hurt, that's a disaster. It's not likely. Maybe out of every 40 people who buy disability insurance, 39 of them will never have a significant problem with their health that causes their income to drop. But that 40th person does. And logically, 1 out of 40 is slightly uncomfortable for people to say, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. It's possible that it could happen to me. And if it did, it would be a disaster. So we insure against things not because they're likely, but because if they do happen, we can't come back from it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my logical approach. It works better on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth.
So, John mentioned COVID for you and your business and selling and how you normally do things. I know you love to be in front of people, and that's how you sell. And obviously, you have a great personality for that too. And how's this affected you? What's changed? Just kind of elaborate on some of those things and how you're making your way through as a salesperson doing what you do.
Well, there are some good changes, not a lot, but you can buy disability insurance and life insurance without a physical and without fluids, without blood or specimen, up to certain amounts, but up to $3 million of life insurance in certain conditions. The insurance companies know that people are not feeling comfortable about having somebody come to their house, take their blood.
Yeah.
So again, with certain ages and certain restrictions, you can get a lot of disability insurance with no nurse coming to your house. So that
you can get life insurance for that without that also at this point.
I'm sorry, I talked over.
You can add life insurance too as well. You're saying not just
you can as long as you've had a physical in a reasonable amount of time that they can go get. So that part's actually gotten easier. Everything's being done, as you guys know, on video chats and phone calls.
Yeah.
And we're sending things back and forth, and we're not meeting with people in person, almost never. So the technology is wonderful. It's made certain things easier, but it's made everything else harder. Being with people, schmoozing, meeting the guy in the next office, drawing pictures for them, shaking their hands. Those things have all changed. Prospecting is miserable. You better have your methods already going. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't want to start in a business right now. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And, I think that's a huge thing. I mean, for people that are out there listening, I think a lot of people don't know that you're, that's something that's available right now to be, to make folks feel comfortable and to be able to increase your life insurance or add disability or whatnot, during this particular time, and do it without, feeling unsafe with somebody coming in your house and drawing blood and doing that whole thing. So,
yeah. I think there's never been a better time to look at your life, to look at your, to be sitting down with your, to me, your insurance agent, your attorney, and your accountant are three of, and your business coach and your title company are the, but the insurance, attorney, and accountant are three of the most important people. And if you don't have those mentors, you need them. And to me, I think it's a great idea for everybody to sit down and maybe a wealth advisor if you have one, to be sitting down with those people right now and just looking at everything and making sure everything is in sync. It's so important. So Gary, I have a question for you. I just want to kind of rewind a few decades. How did you get into the insurance business to begin with?
Well,
after being a musician.
After being a musician, right? I meant to ask you that too, right? I mean, that's we could have a whole show about your life as a musician. That would actually be really, really fun. So we could go there, or we can start once you started the insurance. I would like to know a little bit about that life. I think that's everybody's dream, right? To be a rock star. Maybe mine.
Well, I'm not saying I was a rock star.
Well, we both bought guitars and don't know how to play them.
Right.
I made a living. I was in several bands that worked consistently and made money, and we had money in the bank, and we took paid vacations. We were professional. But I didn't see the career going as far as I wanted it to go. I knew I was good. I just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
I wasn't so good that people were pounding on my door and they had to have me as a guitar player. So I didn't want to spend the next 30 years being a hack, being a traveling musician, which is a crummy life. We all know that. And my uncle was in the insurance business, and he's always wanted me to come in, and he dragged me in. And I started taking sales classes. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
I still tell stories from that book. And I took a class from Larry Wilson's Counselor Selling, which changed my life. It made everything clear to me.
What was it called?
That you had to look at things through other people's eyes. That was news to me, at the age of 30. So I went from being a musician, which is, as you know, people love musicians. They want to buy them dinner, they want to listen to their stories. I went from that to being an insurance man where nobody wants to
talk to you.
They're afraid of you. If they
right. That's interesting.
What you do,
should have a therapist on the show to kind of dissect that. Right.
Right. If people say, "What do you do?" and you tell them, it's like, "Hello." Wasn't there a guy here a second ago? So I spent a good 10 to 15 years calling myself a musician who sold insurance. That's how I dealt with the transition in my head. But it finally clicked, and I realized that I didn't have to work nights, and I decided to have a daytime career. And I never worked another night after my second year. And it's been really good.
Yeah.
Transition was not easy.
I'm sure.
It's a tough gig,
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because I think that's the definition of a great salesperson, right? Is to be able to kind of reinvent yourself, right? Which to me seems exactly what you did. Even though maybe at the time you were not, knowing exactly how that was going, but you made a conscious choice to do that and to reinvent yourself. And, so my question is kind of off the heels of that is, as far as being a salesperson for as long as you have, we're in a cycle that's rough, right? For salespeople, and it's cyclical. You've seen ups and downs and ups and downs, and I think one of the main things with salespeople is try and keep your head right and keep a good mentality and keep yourself focused. And it's hard when you're going through a time like this. And there's been a million things in the past and cycles that have hit that have been up and down and been hard for all sorts of salespeople. How do you mentally kind of keep yourself focus and deal with those kind of things? I just think it's would be great for the audience to kind of hear about somebody who's done sales for as long as you have, and you do a great job at it, to just kind of give some wisdom as to how you keep Gary straight in your mind.
I'm thinking two things. I'm thinking recurring revenue. It's critical. I don't care what business you're in.
Great to sell when it's positive. Sure.
Oh, I try to tell my sons, I say, recurring revenue, it's everything. If you have to start over every day or every month, that's a drag.
Yeah.
It's really important to have clients that you can give service to, because that's a joy, a chance to serve people. In so many respects, that's what we want to live for, is a chance to help. And if you're doing that, that's rewarding, and you continue to get paid if you give good service. The other thing is staying hungry. I don't ever want to retire. I like what I do. Jeff, one day on the golf course, if you tell me I need $5 million worth of life insurance, am I supposed to say, no, I don't do that anymore? That would be foolish.
Right.
If that happens 10 years from now, God willing, we're both around and golfing. Why would I take myself out of that? There's no heavy lifting in what I do. So my goal is not to quit working. My goal is to keep being interested in what I do, keep looking for ways to keep myself fresh and current.
Yeah.
I have no interest in retiring. I don't know. It's fun. The fun part is is helping people. The hard part is finding people to help.
Yeah.
You know,
how do you, I love that. I love that. How do you stay fresh and current? You know, today there's technology, there's marketing, there's social media. There's so many different ways of communicating with prospects and clients, so much differently than 5 years ago, 10 years ago, for sure 20 and 30 years ago. When and so how do you stay fresh and current, especially from a sales perspective, using the technology and things of that nature?
Well, every salesperson has their own favorite method, whether it's social marketing or social media marketing or email marketing, or just getting on the phone and calling your clients, talking to them constantly, or whether it's writing. If you're writing posts and you're putting your own self into it instead of just hiring somebody to do it, then you're communicating with them that way. Having young people around, having clients who hopefully refer their children to you when they get to be young businessmen and women.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're dealing with people who are in their 20s and 30s and growing a business and growing a family, and you're helping dad too, so you try to work with the clients who are moving forward in the right direction. Try to keep yourself aligned with them. And I got to tell you, some of my young clients they're just a blast. They're smart. They're on top of it. They're fascinating. They don't care that I'm old enough to be their dad. They don't care. They just want quality information, somebody who they know,
they
can trust. There's that word again.
Yeah.
Trust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it probably was, I don't know, 10 years ago when I like, it happened to me where I wasn't the youngest person around, and all of a sudden I started selling people who were younger than me, and I realized that, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? But I think it's amazing to to listen to younger people and utilize technology that you may not have known about, and leveraging those things and being open to it. I think is a huge a huge thing for any salesman, just to be open to it, not be threatened or uncomfortable by that. I have a question for you. Usually we do this in the speed round, but somebody that's in college and thinking about doing what you do, instead of taking the musician track to insurance man, what do you think? What would you tell them? What would you advise them on as far as what to be doing to get into a business like yours?
I would start taking certified financial planner classes, and that's the degree I would get. If I wanted to be in the business of money, I'd want to be a CFP.
Yeah.
They're the ones who see the big picture. I'm a CFP, have been for many years, but I only became a CFP to be a better insurance man. Most other CFPs do actual, nuts and bolts financial planning.
Right.
Or they become wealth managers, or they do more estate planning kinds of things. But in my experience, the CFPs really see the big picture. And if somebody wanted to get into this business, well, they got to be willing to hustle, and they have to really like reaching out and making contacts with people, or they're going to fail. And they have to be willing to put up with, could be quite a long period before they get their feet under them. And you can decide how technical you want to get. You can sell policies like a shoe salesman, one at a time, or you can become a pension expert and do things that are incredibly complicated and technical, and anything in between. So it's a good career for the right person.
Yeah. I love everything you're talking about today, Gary. I really think you should write a book. You have such simple, fundamental, core innate way about you. We're going to move into a quick speed round, but I just want to kind of highlight a couple of things, the importance that you're sharing today about, selling through stories and through lessons, through being yourself, through having, not only being yourself, but finding your voice and looking through the eyes of others, and the importance of hunger and hustle and trust and recurring revenue. And we see it in a lot of corporations, bigger corporations, where for the first time in history, there's almost 5 generations in some companies today, where they're mentoring the 20-year-olds with the 60-year-olds, and they're teaching each other. It's not the 60 and 70-year-old teaching the 20-year-old. It's the 20 and 30-year-old teaching the 60. And so you've done that in a mentorship way, in your own way. And so everything you're talking about is so fundamentally strong. I'm not surprised that, your success and everything great that Jeff already told me about you. So moving into a quick speed round. You ready?
Yes. Let me buckle in.
Okay. I want to go back to your uncle who got you into the insurance business. The best piece of advice your uncle ever gave you?
Never give away your renewals.
I like that.
What's the most difficult lesson in sales that you've learned over the years?
You have to pay attention to the client's needs and make them primary to yours.
I love it. The sales class that you took, that you mentioned earlier, what was the one thing that stuck the most?
Oh, beautiful. There was a poster on the board. It had all these push pin marks in it from so many years. And it said, people do things for their own reasons, not ours.
It's good.
Wow. Favorite sales book and why? Maybe the one you mentioned.
It would have to be How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, it's all stories. I'm sure you both know it.
Yeah.
It's one story after another.
Yeah.
I think John got it for me.
Probably. I collect books. I have, it's like, I'll read a book and buy 5-10 copies to give out to people. And I have 1,800 copies of my own book in my basement if anybody wants a copy.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier something that I train a lot in my coaching world. You talked about, you find a line, you find certain words that resonate with people, right? That cause a connection, whether it's an emotional connection, a reaction, a response, something that, triggers something that gets them to raise their level of awareness, which is what I think all salespeople really need to do. How do you raise a level of awareness and raise somebody's level of consciousness so you can help them? What's one of your favorite sales words or lines that wakes people up to be more aware?
I don't think of it as a line.
And I don't either. I don't even like the way that sounded, but you know where I'm going.
I do. I guess when I was a rookie, I was talking to a guy about his mortgage, and he looked at me. He said, "The last guy was here, tried to sell me $30,000 worth of insurance." I could tell by his tone of voice he didn't want that. I said, "So what do you think is a more appropriate amount?" And he said, 10,000. So that's what I sold him. I mean, he told me what he wanted to buy.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been, he told me earlier he wanted to cover the mortgage.
Right.
But he didn't really mean that. He really was only willing to spend so much.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to listen to. There's a drawing, a graph I've never learned how to draw. It's how much insurance people want and how much they're willing to pay for. Everybody wants 10 million, but they don't want to pay for it. So you've got to find where people are comfortable doing the best that they can with their willingness to write a check.
Yeah, that's well said.
I just thought of a line that I really, really like. And I've said this more than once. I was selling disability insurance to an independent businessman, and he said, "Well, how will we know if we've done the job right?" That's a great question. I said, "When we're done, if you write a check and you feel really good about handing me this check, we've done something right."
Yeah.
And that felt right. I just made it up on the spot, but I have used it because when they're buying disability insurance and they're happy to write that check and they go, I feel better now because now I know if I get sick or hurt, I'm not screwed.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Well, that says a lot about you and how you educated them and advised them and comforted them to know how they will, keep themselves safe. Yeah, I love that.
Hopefully.
Jeff, last question.
I'll give you a fun one because you mentioned this. What's your favorite golf course you ever played?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one to end on.
Bandon Dunes in Oregon.
All right. And I got to end with this. Favorite rock star or favorite guitar player, or, anything in the music world.
I would say I love John Mayer. I want to strangle people who say that the old guys were so much better and that nobody's good anymore. This guy's brilliant right now.
Yeah. All right, Gary, you've been a pleasure to talk to. I've really enjoyed this. I appreciate Jeff setting this up and connecting us. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are. I know you mentioned it earlier, but tell them again and how they can connect with you.
Well, I work with small businesses. Once the business gets near 100 people, it's probably something that I'll refer to a colleague. But small businesses, independent business owners, professionals, doctors, lawyers, people starting out their own businesses who have to handle their own benefits. Those are my favorite people, and sometimes it works out. They can get to me at Paragon Underwriters, at Gary at ParagonUnderwriters.com, or they can go to 248 Lifeman on Facebook, which is also my phone number. So, which is another story. I'll tell you that off.
Stay on after, and we'll talk about 248 Lifeman.
Yeah, so I'm there on Facebook, so that's an easy way to find me.
All right, cool. Well, Gary, I can't thank you enough. I know I recapped earlier all the things that I got from today that I know many of the listeners will as well. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your wisdom and your stories and most importantly, your time, today with us. And I'll let Jeff close us up.
Yeah, Gary, thanks so much for coming on. I've known you for a long time. We've done business together for a very long time. I can truly say you're a great person, and you're somebody who cares about what you do, and you're good at what you do. It comes through when you're dealing with people. You're sincere, and anybody out there would be lucky to be able to consult with you. So I appreciate you coming on, and Happy New Year, and thanks so much.
All right.
You guys are a blast.
Thanks, guys. Stay on, everybody, as we go offline. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody listening. If Gary can help you, reach out to him. Thanks, everybody.